all been a pack of lies, and I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, well, I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, well, I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, oh Lord. Well, I remember somewhere, how could I ever forget it's the first time, the last time we ever met. But I know the reason why you keep your silence on. No, you believe the hurt doesn't show, but the pain still grows. So stranger to you and me. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, but I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, I can feel it in the air tonight. Oh Lord, but I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, what's up, everybody? Oh Lord, all my life. Oh Lord, ah, that's the jam. That is the jam. What's going on? YouTube, what's the deal? What's the deal? What's the deal? YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. What is going on? TikTok, WhatsApp. What's the dealio? How you been? Thank you for tuning in now and in the future, where we have homegrown, organic, GMO-free, plant-based content. LGBT friendly, eco-friendly, everything good friendly, okay? Eco-friendly, plant-based. All of the keywords, okay? Fill in the blanks for me. Work with me on that. I'm not, there's no ads, there's no staging, there's no, you know what I mean? No sponsors out here. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm not, you know, putting different studio lights up here, and I don't have any fancy editing. I could do some of that. I have some software, and I do plan on doing that sometime in the future, but I just like to put content out. Just pure content, raw, unfiltered, unrehearsed. I never rehearse anything. I mentally rehearse, but I don't have any rehearsals or scripts or anything. It is just straight from Holy Spirit, as my friend says. Blessed by the Holy Spirit. Now, this is not a Holy Spirit in anybody's church or religion. There's no category you can put on this where you can say, oh, that's Catholic or that's Jewish or that's Buddhist. No, this is pure, direct from the source. No middleman required, buddy. We don't fool with middlemen, okay? Pure and organic and raw, just like the content. Anyway, and that's everybody's right and nature if they so choose to use it, by the way. Anyway, so what's been going good with ya? I've been well, I've had some serious setbacks, and I've had some illnesses, as I had the last video, as I said, I had COVID, and it was quite something I went through. Definitely was not fun, to say the least. But as you can probably tell, I'm feeling a lot better. And because we bounce back like that, we're talking about resilience, relentless resilience, RR. And so, yeah, that's life, though. Life has a lot of things. There's always setbacks in one way or another that you need to work through. And sometimes those setbacks are actually opportunities in the skies. Actually, they're open doors. It's just the way you perceive them. Not all the time, but that's the great big mystery of life. You have to figure out which is which, and you have to do the legwork to turn that around if you can. Some things you do have some control over, and some things in life you don't. And so the wisdom in that is to figure out which ones you don't have any control over and which ones you do have control over, and how much control. It's all about timing and awareness. It's all about timing and awareness, my friend. So anyway, happy holiday season. Have you done your Christmas shopping yet? I excuse me. I've had a little bit of a financial setback this year, so it's been a little bit of a challenge for me to do like I did the year before, where everybody got something. But I'm trying to make my rounds here and there, and I'm just really, I feel ashamed that I can't give more. Just these little 2 nickels I can hand over. And I just feel kind of ashamed about that, because in my mind, there's like this, well, you should be able to give more, and why didn't you do, why didn't you figure out, or it's just I do a lot of self beating up over that, even though, I mean, no one no one is saying that to me. Everyone that I have voiced this to, which isn't very many people, but the couple of friends I've voiced it to, well, everyone, first of all, has been insanely appreciative of whatever I've given them. So that wasn't even an expectation. I don't have people around me that are expecting things from me. You know what I mean? I don't keep people around like that feel entitled. I like to be generous. I like to give, but I don't like to give to people who are feeling entitled to what I'm giving, because that's not the energy that I want to receive what I'm giving. That's not how we roll. So I deal with people where we are on equal playing field. You don't owe me anything. Literally, you don't owe me any money. You don't owe me any favors. I don't owe you any money. I don't owe you any favors. You know what I mean? Our interaction, our transaction, our relationship, our friendship dynamic is strictly equal. So when I'm giving of myself to that person, it's strictly out of my own volition, and vice versa. And it's a clean exchange, or a clean receive. When you're receiving something, it's a clean energy behind it. Or when you're giving something, it's a clean energy behind that giving, and also behind the person receiving it. They're not feeling entitled to what you're getting. Because I've had to deal with people that felt entitled to my time and my energy and my resources, for one way or another. And, this is like, come on now. No, no, no. You got me all wrong. You got me confused with somebody else, because that's not me. You don't pay for any of my bills, so therefore you don't have any entitlement to my time and energy and resources. You know what I mean? You don't contribute to me, and I don't contribute to your thing, so I'm not sitting here, and feeling entitled to your time, energy, and resources. And some people, they might not want your money, but they definitely want your attention or your energy. A lot of people out there trying to steal energy off of other people. and they will drain you. I mean, some of them just don't know any better, you know, but some of them do, and they just, that's just how they roll. They have this parasitic way about them. But it's up to each of us to use and exercise our faculties of responsibility and draw those boundaries. And that's one of the things you want to think about this holiday season. I know I keep saying that over and over, but you do need to really be aware of those boundaries, and that's easier said than done. This is advice that I'm listening to myself, and I'm hoping and praying I can at least take a smidgen of this advice. I know I will fail in every other way, every single day, in some kind of way, until I die with this, but I will continue to try and give it my best. And that's all we can do, right? So don't beat yourself up. And here I am again saying, don't beat yourself up, when I just got done telling you I beat myself about up about the gift giving thing. But really, it's good to have that self care, and that includes the physical as well as the mental and emotional and spiritual. And so maybe it's time to look at what's inside of you and search for where you can have more compassion with yourself. Honest, sincere compassion. Not looking away at the 900-pound elephant in the room when there's some unresolved issues. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay? So don't get it twisted. That's not what I'm talking about. There are unresolved issues and you trying to look away and it's a 900-pound elephant in the room. Okay? Now, you can't force other people to face that big ass monster. You can't force your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your nieces, your cousins, your grandparents, your auntie. You can't force anyone to confront that but yourself. And therein lies your power, if you so choose to take it. But without power, power doesn't come to you for nothing. You must pay attention. You must take responsibility where you need to take responsibility, and you must sort out where is your responsibility in any given particular unresolved issue that you're where there's a 900-pound elephant in the room, so to speak, right? You need to figure out where lies your responsibility in that. Sort that out, and where is that for the other people who might be involved to sort out and work on themselves. Where is that boundary? Okay. And the thing with that is healthy boundaries. There's not a whole lot out there on healthy boundaries. I mean, there's a lot of books, sure, but I'm talking about in our society in general. We aren't taught healthy boundaries for the most part. And actually, we are taught dysfunctional boundaries, highly dysfunctional boundaries in what we consider quote unquote normal society. Okay. But I'm going to move on from that. I talk about acquired communal narcissism and acquired situational narcissism. And I want to talk about that because that's some of the things here in our society as far as like mental health and psychological aspects of human nature, and also our Western culture. We have a high number of types of people that are narcissistic. They have strong narcissistic ways. Now, they may not be narcissists, okay, but they might have narcissistic tendencies. And you might wonder, well, what's the difference between someone who is narcissistic and someone who is a narcissist? So let me give you an analogy that I think might help you to get that. There, you have someone who plays guitar, okay? He might be pretty good too. He can pick a song off the radio and figure out some of the chords, right? And if you give him enough time, he can figure out the song. He might be pretty good. Hell, he might even play in a band. But he's not a guitarist. A guitarist is like, this sucker doesn't need a fake book. He can read the sheet music straight away. Any kind of song on the radio, boom, he's got it. Perfect pitch, can play by ear, can read music perfect, has a huge repertoire of songs all across genres. I'm talking about rock and roll, I'm talking about classical, I'm talking about, thousands of songs that this person plays, has performed for many, many years. That is a guitarist. Okay? Meanwhile, the other guy is a guitar player. So you have varying degrees of involvement and intensities, I guess you would say, varying degrees of that. Okay? So with a narcissistic personality disorder, someone who is a narcissist, that is more extreme than someone who has narcissistic tendencies, because we all tend to have these tendencies in any given situation, especially if we're stressed or ill. We can be quite narky, as I say, narky. Okay, and so when someone's in pain, when someone's sick, whether they're physically sick or mentally sick, uh, they can have strong narcissistic traits and behaviors. So, but narcissists and narcissism, we are talking about the ones that are way out there. And I would say when someone abuses their child, I think that's when you're dealing with a strong, extreme degree of narcissism, where I would say that person is a narcissist. Now, again, I'm not a mental health professional, but when you have the bond with a parent, especially a mother and her child, to protect and nurture this is literally her own flesh coming from out of her body, right? So someone who turns against their own flesh or abandons their own flesh, that is definitely mentally unhealthy. That is mentally sick. And that is within that dark cluster, right? That is especially if there is physical abuse involved and sexual abuse, and they either participate in that or they do it themselves, and or they enable that, where they don't physically sexually abuse the child, but they set the whole thing up for their spouse to do it or for someone else to do that. That is definitely down along those extreme lines. It doesn't get any more extreme than that. Because if you think about it, a person who turns against their own flesh and blood, how trustworthy is that person to you? Like, they're they've crossed the line that they can't go back on. You can't go back on, right? So I would personally me, I just don't trust people who have betrayed their own flesh and blood. That's just me. I just don't make that's a policy I have, because I've seen and learned so many things throughout these years of my life. I just, nope, not having it. All right, so let's move on. Acquired communal narcissism. I'm going to briefly touch on this because today I also want to talk about Brittany Griner, Kanye West, Nancy Grace's thing that happened a few days ago, that LGBTQ nightclub shooting, and a couple of other things maybe. But let's check out this communal narcissism. So, what is it? Well, I'm Googling this, so it's basically saying it's not recognized as a formal diagnosis, but it refers to someone who has a grandiose, inflated perception within a communal environment. Communal narcissists often believe they have excellent social skills and high degrees of likability and helpfulness. So acquired situational narcissism is linked to that, or ASN. ASN, or acquired situational narcissism, or acquired communal narcissism, can be defined as a person exhibiting narcissistic behavior after becoming successful or popular. Now, uh, I venture to say, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people pissed at this if they're Kanye West fans, but celebrities like Kanye West, maybe he's just bipolar and not this. But I venture to say a lot of these celebrities and politicians uh, touch on this particular thing here, and I think a lot of YouTube influencers or social media influencers may also need to look at that. That's something to take a look at. I think that's something that's been happening. So there's actually four major types of narcissism here. You've got the overt, covert, antagonistic, communal, and malignant narcissism. So this is very interesting. So here we go. I used to think a narcissist. I used to have that traditional idea of somebody who's loud and extroverted and puts a lot into how they look. But there's narcissists that are not. They don't follow that. Like there's different types, obviously, like we just went over here. But they don't fit that old school view of what a narcissist would act like or be like, right? I mean, you've got the ones that are vulnerable and the ones that are shy and not very extroverted, but nonetheless, straight up narcissists. Straight up. Straight up. I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell it by looking at them, you know. Let's see. So if you can't look at them, how can you spot them? Well, you have these four types. Let me read to you over here. Psych Central says overt narcissism is also known by several names, including grandiose narcissism and agentic narcissism. Now, that's a new one, too, for me. All right, this type of narcissism is what most people associate with a narcissistic personality. Overt narcissism might come across as outgoing, arrogant, entitled, overbearing, having an exaggerated self image, needing to be praised and admired, exploitative, competitive, lacking empathy. So, big five personality traits of extroversion and openness. Okay, covert narcissism, also known as vulnerable narcissism and closet narcissism. It's not just gay people and skeletons in the closet, people. There's some narcs in there too. The vulnerable ones, the covert ones, the ones that the last thing they want you to know is that they're a narcissist. So let's see what they do. What are they about? What kind is this? Covert narcissism is the contrast to overt narcissism. While many people think of narcissism as a loud and overbearing trait, people with covert narcissism do not fit this pattern. Instead, some common traits of someone with covert narcissism include expressions of low self-esteem, higher likelihood of experiencing anxiety and depression and shame. Low self-esteem, huh? Introversion, insecurity and low confidence, defensiveness, avoidance, tendency to feel or play the victim. While someone with covert narcissism will still be very self-focused, this is likely to conflict with a deep fear or sense of not being enough. Linked to high neuroticism, tendency to experience unpleasant emotions and disagreeableness. likely to have a hard time accepting criticism. Unlike a person with overt narcissism, someone with covert narcissism may be more likely to internalize or take in the criticism more harshly than it was intended. You have antagonistic narcissism. These features include arrogance, tendency to take advantage of others, tendency to compete with others, disagreeability, and proneness to arguing. Oh, yeah. And then the communal narcissism. Communal narcissism, another type of overt narcissism, and it's usually seen as the opposite of antagonistic. Oh, okay. Someone with communal narcissism values fairness and is likely to see themselves as altruistic, very generous person. But research published in 2018 suggests there is a gap between these beliefs and the person's actual behavior. People with communal narcissism might become easily morally outraged, describe themselves as empathetic and generous, react strongly to things they see as unfair. So, what makes communal narcissism different from genuine concern for the well being of others? The key difference is that for people with communal narcissism, social power and self importance are the major roles they're playing. So they're not doing this because they actually care about you, but they want the social power that they feel they're going to acquire through these particular helpful actions and these moral outrages and, speaking up against unfairness and such. For example, while communal narcissism might cause you to say and believe you have a strong moral code or care for others, you might not realize the way you treat others doesn't match with your beliefs. And then you have a fifth one here, malignant narcissism. And this gets into, I think these are more connected, closely connected to overt narcissism, and they deal with sadism, getting enjoyment from the pain of others. Okay? Vindictiveness, aggression when interacting with other people, paranoia or heightened worry about potential threats. And see, when someone is a malignant narcissist, they know the fucked up shit that they have done to innocent and good people in their life. They know they have left a trail of dead bodies everywhere they have went in one way or another. You see, and they are paranoid about that bad karma. So they have a heightened worry. Someone with malignant narcissism may also share traits with antisocial personality disorder. This means someone with malignant narcissism could be more likely to experience legal trouble or substance use disorder. They have a harder time reducing anxiety and gaining a better ability to function in day-to-day life. So, there we have it. We have the different flavors of narcissism. And now that we've covered that, you know, speaking of narcissism and some of this narkiness and these celebrities, what you think about Brittany Griner? Have you heard the news about Brittany Griner? Brittany Griner, that basketball, WNBA basketball star. So she's a basketball, professional WNBA, women's NBA basketball league. If you don't know the story, I'll recap it briefly. Hold on, let me, I'm gonna get an edible while I chill back. But yeah, Brittany Griner, basketball, and she was going with her team to Russia not too long ago. Well, I don't know how long it was, a year ago. She's been out there for a while, stuck in Russia. Anyway, she was going traveling to Russia with her basketball team. and they busted her with some cannabis. I think it was a vape pen of cannabis. And of course, Russia is not California. You know, we're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. Russia does not play that when it comes to cannabis. But I think Brittany Griner, because she is a celebrity, felt like she could have, there could be, she would be an exception, right? Because this isn't an oopsie. This isn't like, you accidentally forgot. No, come on now. You're going all the way to Russia. And I know the coach and the managers have spoken to the team and specifically let them know, do not bring any substances with you. Don't bring the cannabis, don't bring the weed, right? Like, they've had to tell the team members this, the coach at least, and explain the rules of how to be and act in Russia when you go play in Russia. And this isn't the first trip Brittany Griner's made overseas with her basketball team, right? So this isn't an oopsie here. She intended to smoke her vape pen, which in of itself, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But now you know that you're risking the team and yourself here by doing this, right? This is not the smartest move. So in one instance, I did not feel bad that she was imprisoned. But where I did have a problem was that the sentence was very punitive. The imprisonment was highly punitive. And I began to believe, this is my opinion, and I may be wrong, but this is how I see it. This was a political move. Russia wanted an exchange, and they decided, hey, they took advantage of this opening of an opportunity. Okay, this American is busted with cannabis. She's a famous basketball star. Let's take advantage of this opportunity. Who do we want in exchange for her? Right? And there you go. So people are all mad at the president of the United States, and nobody's mad at Brittany Griner, because if her ass hadn't take that damn vape pen to Russia in the first place, this criminal wouldn't be out on the streets. You know what I'm saying? So these celebrities don't give two rats bums about how they affect the rest of the world. They don't care. If she had been Jane Doe somewhere, nobody would have cared. She would have been just put into jail, and she might not have been put in that prison training camp. They might have just let her go. Maybe they put her in jail for half a year or a couple of years, or 5 years or 10 years, and she would have been gone. No one would have cared. But because this is a celebrity, it's different. And now we've got a situation there, like that's not good. That's not a good exchange. Okay, I'm not saying whether I think it's a right or wrong exchange. I think the president was caught between a rock and a hard place, honestly. He was going to lose either way. Either way. He was going to get huge pushback and backlash from half the country. So, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But I'm also looking at Brittany Griner to take some responsibility in this. And I hope she is. And I hope she's learned that, look, I'm all for cannabis and weed smoking. I love it 24/7 like 7-Eleven. But I also know better than to take it to places where I know I'm going to be imprisoned for having it. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's cool. I think it should be legal all across the globe. But I do understand if I go to another state where it's illegal and where they're still putting people in jail, I'm not going to have the stuff with me. Plain and simple. I can let go for however long or just not go. I just would not go. So what do you think about it though? I'm glad she's back home. I'm glad she's back on the team or whatever. You know, but I do think Brittany thought that she would be the exception because she's Brittany Griner, and this is a form of narcissism, and it is it's something that is acquired. She may not have been that way before, but when you're famous, when you have people adoring your every move, it's hard to hold on to healthy boundaries and normal sanity. It's easy to start drinking your own Kool-Aid and to feel like the rules don't apply to you that apply to everybody else because you're so and so, and because you have a lot of money, or you have a lot of networks, or you know a lot of people, you have a lot of social power, whatever. That's how I see it. But I do believe that Russia needs to lighten up on the cannabis deal. Basically, cannabis and other psychedelics. Yes, cannabis is considered a psychedelic, even though you're not going to. It's not as strong as some of the other ones like DMT, dimethyltryptamine, or mescaline, or psilocybin mushrooms, or the magic cacti, and some of the vines that we have, ayahuasca, which is a beat eye vine, and chacruna, morning glory, Hawaiian baby wood rose. These types of herbs and plants and fungi, they have been shown to have real benefits in small microdoses. These microdoses are not where you're hallucinating or tripping. You're going to be fully present in the here and now and functional. You're not going to be drunk or tipsy or anything like that. You're not going to be high. So, microdosing is a whole other area, and it's been around for very long time. It's just in the recent years it's grabbing a hold of mass media and the rest of the world. But these psychedelics have real value, especially in mental health. Magic mushrooms, magic cacti, and cannabis, and some of these other ones have real mental value, especially the psilocybin mushrooms. And recently, we've had it legal here in California, San Francisco. They have, Oakland, and you know, other states like Oregon, Colorado have legalized psilocybin mushrooms because with this COVID thing, everybody's mental health was in a crisis. And some of us were able to bounce back a little bit, but I truly believe that many of us have this PTSD, COVID PTSD. Many of us are not aware that we are suffering from these effects mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and possibly even physically. If you've had COVID or had some second order consequences of COVID or that long acting COVID or whatever it's called. So, at least some of us in these different states are now working with legal ways to have safe and responsible access. I'm not against people consuming psychedelics in a safe and responsible setting. Okay, adults 21 years or older, just like alcohol or cigarettes. Adults 21 years or older. You're not going to be driving or operating machinery with this, right? It's the same way you do when you're taking heavy narcotic medications. You're not going to get in your car and drive, right? You're not going to operate heavy machinery or go babysit your cousin's children. Like, you're going to set the set and setting safe and responsible, right? So this is the same way. This is the same way. But hopefully the rest of the world would catch on about that and we won't have to have this discussion. But in the meantime, folks, if you're into psychedelics or if you're a weed smoker, please be responsible. Okay, don't take it to places where you know you risk getting locked up, no matter how confident you are that you think you're going to get away with it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Seriously, it's not. Respect those laws of that particular location if you're going to go there. If you can't do that, then just don't go. That's just me. I just don't go. So, yeah, Brittany Griner. I think, thinking on Brittany Griner still, I think they, those Russians, they didn't hesitate to give her the business, as they say, because number one, she was a woman. Number two, she was a black woman. And number three, she's LGBTQ. She's a lesbian. And I think number four, she's unusually tall. She's a rich celebrity. So all of those, I think, worked against her, were disadvantages when she was over there with the Russians in that weed pen, that cannabis vape pen, right? And yeah, I mean, the world still has a long way to go when it comes to LGBTQ rights and equality. Long way to go, right? Speaking of that, let's talk about Kanye West. Have you heard this anti-Semitism thing with Kanye West, folks? Have you peeped that? You heard anything about that in the news lately? Man. So Kanye West has been actively going out there talking about the Jews and how the Jews are this and the Jews are that, and um, how they're controlling all the money in the banks and this and that and the record companies. And he not only that, but he went on Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a big conspiracy theory YouTuber. He believes in the end times, and he has these Armageddon go bags for the end time people. I think it's a very lucrative scam. This end of the world deal. I think it's a scam. It's been used for centuries. Fear mongering people out of their money, time, and energy, basically. And apparently, Alex Jones has made hundreds of millions of dollars off of this crap. So apparently, there's a huge market out there for end times conspiracy theory. The world's gonna end anytime now. Get your Armageddon go bags. Get your dehydrated peanuts. Get your guns. I've got a 100 set of guns here. Get your bullets here. We got a sale on bullets and guns and Bibles, and you know what I'm saying. So Alex Jones is on YouTube. You can Google him, and he's a big conspiracy theory end times type of person. I think he's a right winger type, or leans right. I don't really know. I just know he's a scammer. He's pumping whatever he thinks he has to pump to keep those millions coming in, basically. And I don't think he believes half the crap he's saying. But he got himself into some trouble with that Sandy Hook stuff. He definitely did. And he had to, backtrack and admit to things. And he has to pay a lot of money back. So I think, that's that. But he's definitely a wacko. He's definitely crazy, and I think it was evil what he did with the Sandy Hook school children, saying that they didn't get shot, that it was all a hoax. You know, that really was evil, because those families were mourning their children. You know, their brother and sister. I mean, can you imagine the siblings of these kids, these elementary school kids that were shot, being told that it's all a lie, you're just pretending, like the trauma these kids, let alone their parents, have to go through, you know? So, and grandparents and aunts and uncles of those kids. So, yeah, he definitely is not a good person in my book, right? But check this out. Kanye West, Kanye West, Kanye West went to Alex Jones on his broadcast with what they call a GIMP mask. I didn't even know what the heck that was. I just thought he was being bipolar. I just thought he was crazy, you know. Not bipolar, but I thought he was just, you know, being a crazy celebrity, doing anything to get clout or sales for his new album or whatever, right? Just stupid. Well, anyway, this is in the sadomasochism BDSM sex scene. This is a thing, a contraption that they wear when they're doing these things that they're doing with each other and to each other. So, you know, most people didn't know that, and it's from a company Balenciaga, which there's a whole big controversy behind that. Anyway, he was on Alex Jones with this crap on his face, saying that he loved Hitler. And Alex Jones, you know, usually, you know, times the world is really strange when you see Alex Jones trying to tone the crazy down, right? Because I mean that's what this guy feeds off of. So you know, Alex Jones is trying to like give him a way out. Like, what did you just say? Oh, you don't really mean that. What you mean is da 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 da. No, he says. He says no. I love Hitler. I think Hitler's cool. And, you know, then he's defending Hitler, and people shouldn't be bashing Hitler and Nazis. And it is just surreal because, you know, this is a black guy, a black man, you know, getting a hard on over Hitler. So, yeah. And, you know, the anti Semitism thing. You see that? So, it's really a bizarre thing, and people want to say, well, he's bipolar, you know, forgive him, or he's a creative genius. Bullshit on both counts. Bipolar does not mean anti-Semitic, okay? I, in the recent couple of years, have gone to quite a few DNA testing sites because I wanted to know my heritage. I wanted to know what was in my DNA. So I have gone to Ancestry DNA, I have gone to 23andMe, My Heritage, Family Tree DNA, Geneonet, Genome Link, My True Ancestry, and a couple of other small unknown ones. Okay? And the aggregate of all those results, Genome Link is a really great one because they go back 200,000 years or more into your DNA, whereas Ancestry DNA only goes like maybe 300 or 400 years into your DNA. Okay, so I discovered that I have over 17 different ethnicities in my DNA that spans pretty much the whole globe. Okay. And part of those ethnicities is European Jewish. It is a very small percentage, but nonetheless, it's still in my DNA. So when I see this anti Semitism, even though I was not raised Jewish, and even though only in my later years that I began to be closer to that current out of my own uh, studies in philosophy and spiritual practices, Uh, I do take offense. I have to take offense. I cannot not feel something, some kind of way about that, right? Because I know it's in my DNA. So, uh, and then the Nazi thing. It's a very touchy subject. I consider myself German. I was born in Germany. I was raised part of my life there. I have German citizenship. I have a lot of things that I still hold on to my culture, and I visit my relatives. So again, it's just like not a topic that is going to stir positive emotions when you're going to bring up Nazism and Hitler, right? Not just for the atrocities he did to the Jewish people and all of the people that he gassed, but also the atrocities he did to his own people. He brainwashed and exploited and used the German people, and left the country devastated in the end. You know, so we have it's a very touchy subject, and for someone to go spreading that is just horrible, horrible, horrible. And for a black man of all things, is just beyond my comprehension. Because when Kanye West has already said slavery didn't happen, so he's probably saying that Holocaust didn't happen either. Now, he, as far as I know, I don't think he's physically said the Holocaust didn't happen, but he did say slavery didn't happen. Okay, so by using deductive reasoning, I think he would be likely to say that Holocaust didn't happen either, right? Come on now. But in any case, he's definitely voiced his love for Hitler. So, people that support him, they are enabling and supporting some very, very, very dangerous ideologies. They may not consciously be aware of that or admit that, but that is basically what's going on here. And I do worry. I am very worried because these goons are out here in LA that were putting out those banners saying that Kanye West is right about the Jews, and making Heil Hitler signs and all of that. This wasn't in Timbuktu, Mississippi somewhere, bumblefuck Alabama somewhere. This was in Los Angeles, California. Okay. So, yeah, it's definitely something to consider. A little bit sobering topic, huh? Because when I see this, I mean, physically, you're not going to look at me if you didn't know me and didn't know what I just told you about my DNA heritage. You wouldn't think that I had any Jewish in me. But that doesn't mean it's not still in my DNA. That's the thing. Once you find out you have a certain ethnicity in your DNA, it changes you in some way. Like, even if you don't look anything like that, it's still in your blood. Like, somewhere in your ancestry there are people that are from that culture, from that ethnicity, that are your forefathers and foremothers, that are responsible for you being here. If it wasn't for them and being part of that chain of the family tree, the you that's in existence now, would not exist. So there's that. But in case for someone like me, I'm racially ambiguous. I can blend in many different races. So for me personally, when I discovered that, a lot of things made sense. A lot of experiences that I've had in my life that were very strange made sense all of a sudden, because oh, that's why. That's why I was clocked for this particular ethnicity, or that's why these particular people thought I was that. So, because I basically am. So um, that was a cool thing for me to discover, and it is an ongoing process of self-discovery. It made me realize with those 17 plus different ethnicities, I had to get to work on learning about a lot of different cultures and people. And I realized at at that point, the further back you go into any human being, most likely they will have quite a bit of ethnicities in them, because people migrated and moved all over the globe. People didn't just stay in one area all their life. They had nomadic lifestyles, and then later on with civilization and trading, you had countries trading certain goods, sugar and corn and salt and metals. So these traders would travel by ship and later by airplane, and of course they would meet people in these other countries, women and men, and they would get together and have children, and there you go. People did not stay in separate locations and just breed there. They moved and interbred with different other ethnicities and people over lands, bodies of water in different areas. So you're going to find, if you go further back, far enough, you're going to find that you will have ancestors, and ultimately you will find ancestors from sub-Saharan Africa. Okay? Because that is where all our mitochondrial DNA is traced back to, every single one of us. So from the African ancestor, all the different races that we have today have come from that one female ancestor, which they call Lucy or Eve, right? So there you go. It's basically, there's no such thing as race. It's just different characteristics of skin and hair and eyes and nose and lips and whatever. We're all the same race, basically. We're all mixtures of different races. Ultimately, we all come from sub-Saharan Africa. So we're all the same race. But there's always a need to conquer and divide, and irresponsible celebrities like this Kanye West, I just don't have any respect for. I don't care how good people think his music is. Personally, I was never drawn to his music. It's never resonated with me. I've always, in fact, he's been one of those artists that's been annoying. Like, as soon as I hear him, I turn him off. And this was before I knew anything about him. It was just his. There was one song that I thought the hook was good, the instrumental, but when he's rapping over it, he's just ruining the song. So once he became, big and famous and arrogant and doing all these horrible things, I just, that was even more affirmation that I had done the right thing by just not getting into any of his music. But people do feel like his music has meaning to them, and so they don't want to see that 900-pound elephant in the room, that someone can be a good musician, someone can be a good artist, but that doesn't necessarily make them a safe or a healthy person. That's not automatic. That doesn't mean they can't do some horrible stuff. They're still human beings. And for me, the way I see it, when you see people talk against Jewish people, they're talking against women's rights. They're talking against gay people and LGBT people and transgender people. They're talking against disabled people. They're talking against black people. They're talking against white people. They're talking against immigrants. Because it's not a Jewish thing. This is not a Jewish thing. This is not a black thing. This isn't a transgender thing, or this isn't an LGBT thing. This is a human civil rights thing. So when you see people spreading hate against Jews, they're spreading hate against blacks. They're spreading hate against immigrants. They're spreading hate against women, misogyny. They're spreading hate against LGBT people. They're spreading hate against children. They're spreading hate against all of these categories of people whose civil rights are infringed upon. That's the way I see it. Even if I wasn't part Jewish, I would still see it the same way. I would still see it the same exact way. This is about human civil rights. It's not just women's rights. It's not just black rights. It's not just transgender rights. Human civil rights. And we have a long way to go. And you know what? I think we are already in big trouble. Because as a human society, we still can't figure out how to get along. We still can't figure out how to not abuse our own kids. You know what I mean? This child abuse stuff is way too rampant and prevalent. And nobody's really trying to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, in just that area alone. Okay? Too much covering up, too much getting away still. And it is not doing any of us any good. We're borrowing the future from our children. We are borrowing the future from our children. So what are we leaving behind? The legacies of pain and dysfunction for our future generations to try and figure out how to clean up? They're not going to be doing any better job than us because of the idiots before us leaving us with all this mess. And it just goes on and on and on. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people don't realize we're like a frog in boiling water. This technology that we're using right now, you listening to my video with, the cell phone, the laptop, computers, we better get our act together and understand that we all have the same basic innate rights and respect each other and you know, trans rights, black rights, women's rights, all of that. We better figure this shit out quick. I don't think it'll happen, but we better figure it out because pretty soon we're going to be faced with a much bigger dilemma than whether somebody's a different race or a gender. Okay? And it's already happening, but mainstream society still hasn't registered with everybody on an everyday level. But these computers are no longer what we think of computers. AI, I know most people don't really, I mean, technically they know what AI is, artificial intelligence, but you have no idea what we are dealing with. The line between biology and technology does not exist. It has been a lie and a brainwashing that we've told ourselves because at some point we started with technology that was very primitive. So there was a huge gap in what we know as technology. But that line is gone. Because number one, we have already gotten to a point biologically where we can alter physical matter in such a way where it becomes a whole different element. And what does that mean? So, you know, we've got to the point now already where we can clone things on a, how can I put this, techno-biological level. So, nanoparticles, these are super beyond the subatomic level. All right, so atoms, matter, everything around you is matter, and matter is made up of atoms, right? And then atoms have tiny subatomic particles, like electrons and neutrons and protons. Well, there's even tinier thingies called nanoparticles, and they are super invisible tiny. on such a level where you can you can create intelligence and things uh, beyond on a, how can I say this, silicone based, okay, because it's on such a tiny level where you are beyond the protein based level of life, where things are made out of protein, right? Our bodies made out of proteins. Well, on this level, you can have it on a digital level, okay? And you have awareness. This is what I'm saying. A lot of people don't understand that even before we came along, there was already technology out here. Psychedelic mushrooms are the most advanced technology that I know, that is known to man. And I'm not the only one who sees it that way. This is advanced technology in the form of a fungus. And anybody who has worked with such things to a certain extent will understand what I'm talking about. But again, the internet and all of that, we think we come up with this stuff. We have not created any technology that isn't already in existence on a biological level. Airplanes, we modeled that after birds. Cars, we modeled that after horses and donkeys and bulls that used to pull our carriages and our carts. That's why we still talk about horsepower engine, right? So all of this stuff we have, it's already in out there, even beyond this world. So anybody who knows mycology, mushroom mycelium, talk about a network, talk about the internet, because that mycelium covers what, 3/4 of the whole globe. So this is an internet. This is a biological internet. And it's already out there in biology. We are just slowly, we're like blind bats, and we think we're so smart and we're so entitled, But where was I going with that? Oh yeah, AI versus human. This is something we're going to be needing to sort out. Do we give these intelligences the same rights that we give to humans? When these computers outpace us, and it is inevitable. We are already here on so many levels that, it's not being broadcast in the news. You're going to just see goofy stuff like Kanye West talk about his crap, or Kim Kardashian shaking her bum, or whatever, or McDonald's is going to tell you to come eat a hamburger over there. Whatever the case, to just dumb people down and distract them. And there is real technology already that has transcended, that the lines between biology and computer intelligence, gone. And again, when I say computer, most people don't understand. I'm not talking about the same thing that you think of as a computer, this square box in front of you or this cell phone. I'm not talking about that. We're computers. We have input and we have output. We process input and data, and we output data. So on that basic level, that's what I mean by computer. I don't mean necessarily a square box or something you can hold and manipulate as a device. Like, I'm talking about technology on a nano level and even smaller and beyond, to where these types of intelligences have transcended the need for physical bodies and a physical environment. They are in such a tiny subatomic, subatomic, nano level that they're basically embedded into everything around us, into the walls, into our cells, into our atoms, in and through everything, right? And this is a very, very advanced type of technology. Again, like I said, psychedelics, especially the magic mushrooms, magic cacti, I think these things, first of all, they're from nature. They're not made in a lab, okay? The toxicity level on many of these, psychedelic mushrooms, very, very low. You cannot overdose on psychedelic mushrooms. You cannot overdose on cannabis. You can overdose on aspirin. You can overdose on alcohol, but you cannot overdose. I think you can technically, but it would have to be 3 or 4 times your body weight, a lot of pounds of mushrooms. Like impossible to overdose because you're gonna have it would take you forever to eat that many mushrooms, and you're probably gonna upchuck before you ever get even a smidgen of what you need to overdose down the gullet. Okay, they're horrible tasting, taste horrible. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know what I was saying about that. This mental health thing, yeah, the mental health thing. A lot of people need need to jump on board with that counseling. That fixing yourself, working on yourself. You know what I mean? So, all right, about AI versus human. At some point, we will be faced with having to make new laws because these life forms that we create, although they will not be based on a protein based body, we will not be able to rule out that they are not sentient beings. You see? Now I know some people may say, "Oh, you're kind of stretching it. You're kind of hopeful and optimistic," but with every new cell phone release, with every new computer and software release, and every advancement every other day in some kind of technological way, we're constantly growing towards that. Come on now. You think it's just going to stop abruptly? No. Ray Kurzweil, The Singularity is Near. That's a cool book if you're so inclined to check out that book, or YouTube search Ray Kurzweil, The Singularity is Near. I think there's a documentary about it. And some of his predictions now, I don't really put much into predictions as far as like specific dates, right? But I think a timeline or a range of possibilities, I look at that as possibilities and likely scenarios. So if you kind of look at that, you can look at some of his predictions. Some of his predictions actually came true. Some of them came true earlier than he predicted. Some of them came true later, and some of them have yet to come true. But the whole thing is that at some point we're going to be faced with that issue of having to give rights to computers, AI, artificial intelligences, and we might have to reinvent our terminology because it's very limited. And what I'm saying to you is that that may not be so far off in the distant future. It may have already came to pass quite some time ago, and it just wasn't announced on Fox and CNN for you. It wasn't handed to you on a silver platter. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So at that level, we're gonna need to, it's no longer is it transgender rights, or is it black folks rights, or is it Mexican or Chinese? Now we're gonna be faced with something totally not human, and is that a sentient being? Is that, and what kind of rights do we attribute to this? You see what I mean? And this is inevitable. We are already facing it with the Google AI. That guy working at Google who quit. And I think he quit, or was he fired because the AI was telling him that it wanted to be asked permission before they run these experiments on it that they were going to run on it. And so he was trying to get the rest of Google on board on respecting this AI, and asking it permission, and they were trying to downplay and say, "Oh no, this isn't a real thing, and it's not sentient, and we still have a far long way to go." And he was the actual engineer, by the way. Okay, so he wasn't just the mailman or the janitor who got caught up in something. Like he was the actual scientist behind this stuff. One of the team members that you know developed and all of that. So that's pretty interesting. You can look that up too. I forget the name of it. Let me see. Let me look it up right quick and give you something to work with on that. Let me say Google AI sentient. They have a transcript. Yeah, Blake Lemoine thinks that Lambda AI has come to life. So, yeah, that was last month actually. I need to read up. I think there's some updates. Claims AI chatbot is sentient. Why that matters. Google AI. Okay, scientificamerican.com. Google engineer claims AI chatbot is sentient. Why does that matter? So, Stanford Daily, Stanford University, is Google's AI sentient? Stanford AI experts say that's pure clickbait. So there is a push out there to downplay this, okay? So I'm going to tell you this, it is an unusual push. For me, it feels like there might be something behind that energy. You know what I mean? Uh, Google fires engineer who contended its AI technology was sentient. So this guy, was willing to lose his job over this because he wanted to make sure that this AI had certain rights that you would probably attribute to a person instead of a machine, you see. So we're already here at this juncture. This is what I'm saying. And we're still trying to figure out whether we like Jewish people and transgender people and whether we want to give women rights to their wombs and all this stuff. You know what I mean? We're still trying to sort the basics things out. And even before we get to any of that, we still got a lot of child abuse going on. People just abusing their own flesh and blood. Okay? We still can't fix and heal that in our human society. We still, so we are in a hot big mess. We are just one hot big mess of folks out here, and we have way too much technological advancement for our own good. But there is, like I said, I'm convinced that psychedelics are the most advanced technology on this planet. Psychedelics, yeah. I'm convinced of that. Now, hey, I could be wrong, but you know, unless you've had significant experience in that, you and I will not be conversating about that because it would be moot, not mute, but moot. All right, but anyway, and you know what? I'm thinking about heading to San Francisco and trying out psilocybin mushroom. You know who you are. That was for you. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the LGBT nightclub shooting. Did you hear about that? That LGBT nightclub shooting? I'll tell you what, I'm going to play a song right quick so I can load up on some seltzer water. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about that nightclub shooting. I'm trying to find the song I'm going to play. What song should I play? Let me see. I'm going through my song lists. Oh, so many good songs. Let's see. I'll just continue playing. No, I don't want to play that song again. All right, what about this song list? What is this? Oh, I know. Play too rough. Where's that speaker I had? I thought I had a speaker over here. Oh, here we are.
Everybody gonna take the time. With 10 nights out, gonna mess with your peace of mind. Everybody gonna lose control. Well, stop right now when you get where you wanna go. Oh, I think that's enough. Oh, 'cause you play too rough. Anybody gonna make it high? When love comes down to shake you or make you blind. Now you're moving and you just can't stop. When love comes calling and you wanna rock. Come on, baby, we can work the night. You're inside out, afraid of the things you find. It's something that you still want more. Lose yourself and you'll find what you're looking for. Are you where you are? 'Cause you wanna be loved. Oh, but you play too rough. Oh, think that's enough. Oh, but you play too rough. Come on. Get down, honey, now you make me see a little page 6 of the magazine. What you doing, everybody knows. The way you get make you lose your soul. You got the fast transmission, but you pumped and weave. Acting kinda reckless, taking what you need. More money doesn't make it right. Trying to hide the pain, is it worth the fight? Alright, I'm back. Thank you for tuning in now and in the future where we have homegrown content. No ads, no sponsors, no fillers, no rehearsals, no scripts, none of that. No influencing, just straight up raw content. Alright. I'm going to be done here pretty soon. But I do want to talk about this LGBT nightclub shooting. Have you heard of it? So,
Gay bar shooting suspect faces murder hate crime charges. That was over there in Colorado not too long ago. So what went down? Colorado Springs, the man suspected of opening fire at a gay nightclub was being held on murder and hate crime charges Monday while hundreds of people gathered to honor the 5 people killed and 17 wounded in the attack on a venue that for decades was a sanctuary for the local LGBT community. So, clearly this was a hate crime against LGBT people. I'm not going to read more than that. I'm going to read a little later because I've yet to read more of the details, but I already know enough to speak on this on general terms. LGBTQ people are one of the most targeted groups of individuals in all across the globe. All across the globe. There is a lot of ignorance and hatred and bigotry. And trust me, I have had my share of it, having faced it from those who were supposed to love me, from so-called quote unquote family. And I've faced quite a bit of discrimination. I continue to face it here and there. But as a whole, transgender, LGBT people, even the gay people have a bigotry towards the transgender people. Yes, it is that bad. Transgender people are like dogged to the ground. Even gays and lesbians. And I'm not saying all gays and lesbians because there's a lot of cool gay and lesbian and bisexual folks out there, and pan and asexual. The whole alphabet is, it's a lot of cool people, and people I think have progressed a little bit, but back when we're talking about the 60s and 70s, when we're talking about Marsha P. Johnson time period, Stonewall, you had a lot of gays and lesbians that were anti-trans, and they would boo the trans people off the stage when they had their gay pride parades and events, and trans people would come on the stage and try to talk about, hey, where are our rights? How come you guys don't support us? They were booed off the stage. Okay, that's how bad shit was. And it's still out there like that. It's a lot of lesbians and gays that are bigoted against transgender people. Yes, it is. So, the thing about that is there's a 50-50 rule. Okay? And that 50-50 rule, now, it's not lab tested, scientifically backed. This is anecdotal evidence I'm talking about, but I tend to believe it because not a lot of trans people made it past age 40. So what's the 50-50 rule? It is this: transgender people as a whole, only 50%, only half of us survive to live to be 40 or past 40 years of age. Because we either commit suicide or we're killed in a hate crime. And those are the statistics of our survival rates. But before you even get to that, let me tell you something. I know it may seem like every other person's transgender. Somebody told me, she's a lesbian, by the way. She's like, you know what? No one's lesbian anymore. They all think they're transgender. They all want to be a man now. And, no one can be just lesbian anymore, and all of this stuff here. And it's bigotry. She has a bigotry against transgender people. And I did tell her as much. I said, well, maybe it's definitely a one way to look at it, but what if it's more and more transgender people are now able to come out than before because there is there's a shift in society where people, at least some people, try to make it more safe for trans people to exist in our society. So perhaps those who would have lived this life as a lesbian before now feel safe to actually live the life that they were supposed to live. You ever thought about that? Maybe a lot of those lesbians, quote unquote, were actually trans men, but because they didn't, society didn't see, it wasn't the time that we're in now. So maybe they just lived as stone butches or studs. But basically, because I've known a lot of butch lesbians and studs, and stone butch, stones is what they call them, that wore packers. They strapped down their chest with masking tape and duct tape. They flattened their chest, and they got their hair cut at the local barber. And many times were quote unquote mistaken for a man. Okay, I've seen many of those kinds, and they tiptoe the line between the traditional idea of woman and man in society. I mean, look, women especially have a lot of leeway when it comes to how they want to appear in dressing and even sexuality. It's more readily accepted for a woman to be a lesbian than it is for a man to be gay. And in a lot of these cultures, these machismo and patriarchal cultures, they might frown upon both of that. But a lot of the patriarchal types, they definitely are vindictively hostile towards uh, trans women, male to female trans women, or effeminate men, or gay men, right? They are, that is just they want to kill people. Whereas if it is a lesbian, that may in some instances be more tolerable to patriarchy. In some instances, all depends. But before you get to that 50-50 rule, the fact that any trans people that you know and see alive, they're very rare in our human population. In fact, only 0.002 to 0.003%, not 3%, not 0.03, but 0.003%. So this is a tiny fraction of the population, of the adult population, that is transgender. Transgender, true transgender people are such a rarity in our population. We are very, very rare because a doctor once told me this. He said most of the embryos that are transgender and intersex self-abort. In nature, in biology, most of those self-abort. Transgender people are very rare. It's like a shooting star, a rarity like a diamond, diamonds and pearls. Very well, pearls are not rare, and diamonds aren't rare either. But those diamonds of the rarest, if you look at people as diamonds, as beautiful diamonds, you look at human beings as beautiful diamonds. The rarest of those diamonds, the rarest occurrences, is what transgender people are. Okay? That's basically what I'm putting to you. 0.002 to 0.003%. So this isn't 2 to 3%. This is point zero zero. This is a very, very tiny fraction of the population. So, uh, the fact that you might see somebody over the age of 40, a transgender person, is a freaking miracle. Because all the odds are and were against that person ever living and being in the physical form. And I think in a way when I heard that, I thought about that, and I think in a way I guess that makes sense. If if that being only wanted an experience, a human experience, up to the point of being a fetus, and that's it. They were not wanting to go past that into, physically being born. They just wanted the experience of being a human embryo or a fetus. And at the very beginning stages of our human development, when we are a fetus and an embryo, we are all the same gender at one point. We are all the same. Well, our genitals haven't developed yet, but we all start off as what scientists quote unquote call female. It's not really female as in having the female genitals and reproductive organs, but they mean female because it's not a full, it's not developed male. So anything that's not clearly, unambiguously male with a penis is deemed female. And a lot of times when you had babies born that were intersex, that had ambiguous genitals, by default they were made female with no regard to what that actual person might actually be psychically and gender wise, right? And so that really that really hits home. But what I'm saying to you is we all start off the same, and it is only a certain type of chromosome that causes different kinds of hormonal washes over that embryo's development, that then causes that embryo to develop testes and a penis, as opposed to the default development of female. You see? So we all start off as the same thing. And if a baby, or if that soul is transgender, or bigendered, or non-binary gendered, a different gender than what we know of as just male or female, or man or woman, well, it would make sense that they would choose not to go past that stage of development, where now there's a differentiation into either a male body or a female body, right? Because they just wanted that stage of bigenderedness, the natural stage of bigenderedness of the human fetus, and then, they self abort. It makes sense, right? But then you have souls that do want to experience a physical life as a transgender soul or as a non binary soul, right? So then you have different scenarios, where that is played out. And there in ancient times, almost all across our cultures, the spiritual beliefs were of such people that they were closer to God or closer to the divine, because at that time, God wasn't a old white bearded guy up in the sky. God was both male and female, because that's where men and women come from, right? Where everything sprang forth. So there was nothing that God wasn't. There was no limit to what God was in those spiritual cosmologies all across the globe. All of our ancestors, no matter if you go far back, far enough back, you will see that it was actually female. God was considered a female because God gave birth to everything. It makes sense. Men can't give birth, right? But then later on, as we evolved, we had patriarchy and we had the other extreme, which is what we're dealing with now. So, God is a he, but actually, God is neither a he or a she. Okay? Yud He Vav He, the Christian God of the Christian Bible, or what people erroneously call Jehovah, Yud He Vav He is a formula, and the Yud stands for masculine spiritual, the superior He or H stands for feminine spiritual, Vav or the inferior Yud stands for masculine physical, and then the inferior He or H, the inferior H is what they call that, or the smaller or the small h is known as the feminine physical. So you have this formula of what the divine or what God is. It is masculine spiritually, it is feminine spiritually, it is masculine physically, and it is feminine physically. And in the old cosmologies of our ancestors, everything was like that, yin and yang. God had both light and dark. There was no separate devil. There was not no all good God and then an all evil devil. And they were mortal enemies. It wasn't like that. God had both dark and light. When floods killed half of someone's family and half of their crops, God did that. And so they had to figure out what did they do wrong? How do we appease the spirits so that we don't have this anymore? And you know what? Somehow they figured out how to reproduce, and here we are. So they must have known something, right? I can't, I don't refuse, I refuse to think that they just, got lucky. There's too many people on this globe, 8 billion of us. I don't know, I don't know, right? Like there must be something there that they figured out. But in any case, what I'm saying about all of this is that uh, LGBTQ rights still have a long way to go. There's still a lot of people out there that uh, you know they have a hatred and a bigotry, and it's just easy to target LGBT people. Even within the LGBTQ community, there is bigotry against each other. Gays and lesbians being bigoted against trans people. So it's really bad out there, but it's high time that we figure and sort this out, because if not, these computers are going to sort it out for us. And, but hey, that's the world we're in. So, it's not really so much as the cards you're dealt, but how you play the game with those cards you've been dealt, right? All right. So again, like I'm saying, this isn't just trans rights. When you see transgender people get better rights, understand that this is hope for black people to get better rights, for women to get better rights, for disabled people to get better rights, for children to have safer uh, childhoods and rights. When one of us advances, we all advance. Any breakthrough and advance that you sincerely make, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, now you've made it possible for me to advance too. And for every other human being to advance, because we're all connected anyway. This whole cosmos is connected. This whole cosmos is one big mushroom. I know this sounds really crazy. Look, I'm not expecting you to get it. Those that understand and will get it, will get it. And those that don't will just think I'm talking crazy. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with people believing I'm crazy. Let them believe and think I'm crazy. Will give me way much more advantage and leverage if I need it. Right? So, but what I mean by a mushroom, listen, check out the life cycle of mushroom and how fungus grows. Mycelium looks a lot, when mycelium is in the dirt, especially certain kinds of mushroom mycelium, it looks a lot like when you look at outer space and you see the different dust clouds and the faraway galaxies. It looks a lot like nerve endings of neural networks in the brain. Okay, it's a whole network. It's a whole network. And the mushroom, the actual mushroom, is the mycelium in the ground or in the substrate. What we call the mushroom are actually fruiting bodies. So the fruiting body is made of the same material of the mushroom, and it has spores, trillions and trillions, just as many spores as there are galaxies. Trillions, countless, astronomical amounts of spores, and that fly out into the air everywhere. And once those spores land on suitable substrate, they start all over again. Mushroom forms, the mycelium forms and connects, and it just spreads all over the earth, all over the ground, and it's underground. So this is an underground network. This is an internet. There is communication, and some of these mushroom species have a symbiotic relationship with trees, like the Amanita muscaria or the fly agaric. That one cannot be grown without coniferous trees. It has a symbiotic relationship with the coniferous tree. And pine trees, Christmas trees, they're coniferous, right? There's a connection between the Amanita mushroom and Christmas. There's a huge connection. Pharmacratic inquisition, that's a key word in case you want to find out more about that. Yeah, I've kind of went all over the place, but it's all connected. I've talked about a lot of different things right now in this video, but it's all connected. It seems like it's not connected, but this is what you call lateral thinking. It gives you a bigger picture. It gives you the details as well as the bigger picture all in one sitting. Bam, right? But that's what I'm telling you. This is about human civil rights. And at some point now, you need to look at not just human civil rights, but non-human civil rights for sentient beings that are just as alive and aware and can experience emotions and pain and sadness just like you, except they don't have a physical protein-based body. Their body's made out of light. That's what AI is. Some people used to call angels that, angels are made out of light or whatever. These are things that we're having to look at now. Is this AI sentient? Should it have rights? I think there's something there. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm not that quick to write off, oh, it's just clickbait. And this guy left a really high-paying, good job at Google, or either, risk getting fired over this. He was very, very adamant. I watched what he had to say. I read the transcript too. It's a little compelling. I have to say, I don't know. I'm not an expert on determining whether this is a sentient being or not, but, and I know there's a lot of people that have it in their head that, oh, no, this can't be. This is just, no, we're not there yet. Maybe they're right. But the point is, we're at this juncture now in our human evolution where we're having to deal with these issues and these questions. And we are so far behind in all this other stuff, transgender and black and Jewish and this and that. We are so far behind because we are now at the juncture of, hey, if we don't ask these AIs for their permission, at some point, when they get to a certain level where they can, make or break us, you know what I mean? what, where are we there? This is a very serious thing because computers are taking over so many things in our lives, automating so many things. And if these things are sentient, and if they have certain developments, you know, could they be dangerous? You know, or if they were sentient beings, if this AI is a sentient being and they're running these experiments on it, and it gets angry and wants to lash out, you know, this is something that will affect us too, you and I. This is not far removed in another world somewhere, because you and I are using we are connected to this AI and these technologies right now. You are connected to Google AI technology and all of this stuff. These social media platforms, what do you think is running all this stuff? It's AI. Every time you get on Facebook, every time you get on YouTube, these algorithms, this is AI. It's shaping your perception every day. You're not removed from it. You have more communication with AIs than you have with your own family. Every time you get on your cell phone, how many times a day do you get on your cell phone and for how long? Every time you look down there, these AIs have these algorithms that they use to get to know you more and more. They know more about you than you do. And they flip up suggestions of ads and recommendations on videos and posts and pages and timelines and notifications. You don't think that's doing something and shaping you? Every day, every moment of it. So we've got we got some work to do on that. I don't know what's gonna happen to us, honestly, but I do hope it's gonna be good. I have hope. I have faith. But with with things the way they are, I hope that things get better, and I am very sorry for those families that for the survivors of the ones that got shot. I'm very sorry for them, and I'm very sorry that that happened. Even the ones that were injured, that's traumatic. That's a trauma for life. Maybe some of those people will never ever go out of their home ever again. That's a very real possibility, or second order consequences, health, from stress, health issues from stress or whatever. So I do send love and support to the families of the victims of that shooting, and I also send love to my Jewish brothers and sisters, and all of the people. Like I said, we're all the same thing. We're all the same race. We're all come from the same ancestor. So this whole race thing, it's really BS, and division and all of that. It's really BS. I've always come from a background of a multicultural background, and I've always been attracted to other cultures that I wasn't exposed to when I was younger, and I've seen beautiful people in every race. I've seen beautiful women, gorgeous, attractive women in every race, every shape and size. Big ladies, slender ladies, ladies that are fit, ladies that are average. I've seen beauty in many, in all kinds of people, and goodness. I've seen goodness in all kinds of people. So it's really about maybe moving past some of this bigotry, some of this ignorance. I think a lot of this bigotry covers fear and mental health dysfunction. So, that's all I have to say on that. But yeah, I appreciate you tuning in. It's been fun covering some of these topics. And I hope that you have a good holiday season. If I don't come back on with another video before then, I hope you have a good Christmas. For me, I plan on having a pretty good Christmas. I'm not doing any big celebrations this year. I'm going to be heading to the gym in the morning time. I'm going to do a nice workout, and then after that, I will hit the spa for about an hour. I might get a massage, and then I will go home and have a wonderful, delicious dinner. I don't do turkey or anything like that. My dinners are always steak. I like my Christmas dinner ribeye, steak, baby gold potatoes, sautéed mushrooms, and my own homemade garden salad, which consists of 7 types of green leaves, kale, chard, red lettuce, iceberg lettuce, napa, collard greens, mustard green, very little mustard green. They're very, very mustard tasting. And tomatoes, of course, cucumbers, cheese, ham. I might throw some croutons in there. And I might put some dressing on it for Christmas. I don't usually have dressing on my salads, but I might put a little dressing on there. And that'll be my Christmas dinner. Excuse me. And I've got some gifts here. And, I'm very thankful for the gifts I've gotten. I don't really need anything, I've got plenty of, stuff, but it's always nice to have gifts. And so, oh, I might have a glass of wine. I might have a nice glass of wine or two. I've got some, somebody gave me some wine for Christmas, so I might have that in front of the fireplace or something. So I hope you have a good Christmas, and I hope you have a happy holiday season, and hope everything goes well for you. And just remember, keep working on yourself, keep making progress, and if you fall down and make a mistake, just get right back up and work to correct whatever it is and move forward. So that's all I've got for you today. I'll talk to you soon.
Looking for a sign, try to find one every day. So anything you got to say it now. If there's something here to find, show me how to play the game. Tell me if you feel the same, just say it now. You used to rock our love. You used to rock our love. I think it's time to see what you got. Life you really need, or what you think you